Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, candidates. Welcome to our webinar for today, Friday, 3 p.m. Before I go any further, candidates, let me just remind you that today is the last day of our career fair. So make sure pagkatapos ng ating webinar ngayon for us to hit all of the company booths that we have on our platform and send in those applications para naman, we have a big set of companies which we can choose from. No? So going straight into our webinar, joining us today is someone who had a brief stint in the banking industry. At the Department of Trade and Industry, she became a provincial director of the DTI NCR and became the OIC regional director. She served under former DTI Undersecretary of Regional Operations Group Zenaida C. Maglaya as Chief of Staff and as concurrently assigned as the Program Manager of the NCPMU and Project Director of the INREP LES 2. Since October 2021, she has served as the Assistant Director for Bureau of Small and Medium Enterprise Development. Let us welcome the OIC of Bureau of Small and Medium Development Program Manager for Negosyo Center Program Management Unit, Director Emma C. Asusano.
Nakabahan ba kayo? So, I'm Emma C. Asusano of the Bureau of SME Development, or BSMED for short, to give you a short presentation on career in MSMEs. It's a great alternative in the new normal. Okay, so for this afternoon, ano ba ang ating mga pag-uusapan? Okay, so we'd like to know what are MSMEs. Then we'd like to discuss with you how is it working in a small business or a startup business. And last but not the least, how important are the MSMEs in the rebuilding of our economy? Okay, so let's proceed to the next topic. Yung what are MSMEs? Next slide, please. First, let's have an understanding ng position ng mga MSMEs sa ating bansa. Okay, sino ba dito nakarinig na ano yung MSMEs? Oh, next slide, please. So, how do we define them? So, there are two ways to classify MSMEs. Una, pwedeng according to the assets, which is included or as described sa Magna Carta of MSMEs, also known as RA number 6977. At ang pangalawa, number of employees naman, so which is the category din na ginagamit ng ating Philippine Statistics Authority. So on the slide, you can see anything na 3 million pesos and below are classified as micro pag ang asset size niya ay 3 million below. So that would exclude land from where the PPE or the plant machines are nakatayo. And relatively, ang ginagamit kong employment size na yan ay less than 9 people. So pag dumating naman sa small, 3 million pesos and 1 peso, up to 15 million pesos. So classified as small with 10 to 99 people. And of course, 15 million and 1 peso to 100 million pesos ay classified na as medium. So, ang employment size naman yan ay 100 to 199. So, anything above 100 million is of course classified na as large. Okay, so klaro yung ano natin according to asset value size or pwede din naman according to employment. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, please. So, let's see, ano yung topic natin na susunod? Understanding how working on a small business or startup may be a good career move. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, please. Dito, makikita natin, it's easier to see, feel, experience the impact of one's contributions and decisions in a business with 100 or less employees rather than with maybe more than 100,000 na employees. So kita mo agad ang impact mo sa kumpanya. Okay? Next slide, please. So chances are landing a job at a small business is going to be much quicker in terms of processing your application. So compared to large companies, it's not unusual to go through 5, 6, even 10 interviews before you are actually given a job. So pagdating sa mga smaller, mga small businesses, hindi naman siguro aabot sa 10 interview, mas less than 5 or 3. Marami na siguro yung 3 interviews. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So sabi natin, the smaller, the less bureaucratic. Kasi everyone knows that when you work for a large company, mas maraming hoops you have to go, loops that you have to jump through to get anything done. But small businesses, on the other hand, tend to have less bureaucracy. Medyo siguro mas flat ang organization and less complex siya. So in a small business, makikita natin, it's really much simpler to navigate the organizational maze to know who really makes a difference in that particular business. Okay? Hindi ka manghuhula. Parang kaya-kaya, kita mo na agad yan. All right. So let's go to the next slide, please. So sabi natin, it's a family affair. Well, more often than not, lalo na kung micro-enterprise yung mapapasukan mo, mas madalas family-based ang enterprise. No? So if you work in a large company, it's likely you'll only get to know the people you work with day in and day out. Siyempre, kung sino yung madalas mo makasalamuha, madalas mo nakikita, more often than not, sila yung medyo you will get to know on a personal note, Maybe makikita mo yung mga iba kasi malalaki ng nila offices, baka nasa building, so baka nakakasabay nyo sa elevator or siguro sa canteen if ever, but you don't get the chance to really have a chit chat with them. Compared to small company, most likely you'll probably know everyone from the receptionist all the way up to the boss. So mas personal ang relationship pagka nandito ka sa small businesses. And if you get along then with them, it really may feel like a family. But on the other hand, meron din cons yun. If you don't get along, well, you don't have the distance of a big company. So talagang maya't maya siya siguro yung medyo person na hindi mo nakakasundo. Baka yung pa yung kasama mo dun sa unit, So sige, ganun yung mo, wala kang maiiwasan na space. Okay? So let's go to the next slide, please. Ano ba ang sinasabi natin dito? You get to wear more hats. Do you like that? Wearing more hats? So working for a small business can give you much wider exposure to job functions because everyone tends to wear more than one hat. Siyempre, everybody helps, di ba? Everybody needs to help in running that business. Dahil you don't have the luxury of people, so more often than not, yung job description mo, nandoon yung last and performs other duties as may be assigned. No? So for instance, yung controller of a small company may have his or her hands tungkol sa budgets, forecasting, creating financial statements, pero in a large company, he or she may only be responsible for preparing the financial statements. Kung sa bangko nga, baka hindi nga financial statements yung gagawain mo. Kung wala ka naman din sa accounting, ang gagawain mo lang siguro, if ever, is balansehin yung transaction for the day, yung mga debit and credit tickets mo. Ganun lang, So, next line, please. So, well, I hope we would have better working conditions if we work for small businesses. Dahil small businesses typically have less rules, so mas flexible siya, in the work-life balance that they offer. They know they cannot provide the same benefits that a large corporation can. So oftentimes, they will go out of their way to make the working conditions really good. So, ngayon naman, pag-aralan naman natin or intindihin natin ano ang importance ng MSMEs sa ating bansa. Okay. Next slide, please. Oh, ano na itong ating nakikita ngayon? Sabi dito sa ating slide, ang MSMEs ay engine of economic growth. Bakit? You know, 99.51% of the total business establishments in the country are MSMEs. No? So, ang liit lang ng percentage share ng mga large companies. Less than 0.5%. So, 0.49% lang ang ina-account ng large. Okay. So, then sinegment pa natin ilan ang share ng micro. So, out of that 99.51%, makikita natin a big chunk of it are classified as micro. So, more than 88.7% ay micro. Susunod, small naman na. Pero 10.25% na lang siya. And ang medium, halos parang ano din, equal kay large, 0.49% lang ang ano niyan. Ang equivalent share niya sa total business establishments in the country. So makikita natin talaga, micro comprises the big chunk ng ating mga business establishments. Okay? So next slide, please. So, makikita naman din natin, ano ba ang contribution ng mga MSMEs as far as total employment dito sa ating bansa? Ang nakikita natin dito, they employ or jobs are generated ng mga MSMEs is equivalent to 62.66%. Or kung titingnan natin dito sa figure natin, 5.3 million yung stat natin dito. So malaki ding big chunk of the employment sector yung na ini-employ ay coming from the MSMEs. Okay? So let's go to the next slide. Ngayon, syempre kung may preference kayo, ayaw nyo dito sa Metro Manila kasi over naman yan, or you really would want to be based, halimbawa, in your province. Anong itsura? How are our MSMEs distributed? So makikita natin dito which are the top 5 regions in terms of share, highest share sa mga ating business establishments. Siyempre, number 1, NCR or Metro Manila. So they got a big chunk, 21.10%. Yung Region 4A, also known as Calabar Zone, ang nakuha naman niya ay, hindi ko makita, maliit ang aking 14.62%. Followed by Region 3 or Central Luzon. No? And then, of course, in the Visayas, we have Region 7 or Central Visayas, followed by Western Visayas or yung sa may Iloilo side. So, nakita natin top 5 regions. Kung sa Luzon, magkakadikit lang yan. Metro Manila, Region 4A at Region 3. Tapos, surprisingly, pagdating naman sa southern part ng bansa, it's really nakafocus kay Visayas. Okay? In terms of share nila sa distribution ng mga MSMEs. Okay. Next slide, please. So, tingnan naman natin, ano ang distribution ng ating mga MSME per industry sector. So, dito sa ating donut pie, donut chart, makikita natin na majority ng mga MSMEs ay nasa wholesale and retail trade, followed by accommodation and food service activities, which is related to tourism. Okay? So, Yung mga other service activities, nandyan, naka-enumerate niyan. So, other industries, maliit na lang talaga yung share ng other industries. Wala pang, wala pang ang 0.25, 0.23%. Okay? So, this blue big part, yan po ay wholesale and retail trade. No, doon mas engage ang ating mga MSMEs. Right? So let's go to the next slide, please. Pagdating naman sa sales and census, value adding. So sabi natin, 35.7% ang GDP natin ang share ng ating mga MSMEs. Ang manufacturing, they contributed the largest share, which is equivalent to 6.87%. So kanina, yung sabi natin, maraming engaged sa wholesale and retail trade, including repair shops. So they contribute 6.58%, followed by the financial intermediation with a share of 6%. Okay, so mataas pa rin naman ang share ng ating businesses engaged in manufacturing, compared to the wholesale and retail trade. Okay. So within the sector, ang small enterprises accounted for the largest share of 20.5%. Ang medium enterprises followed with a share of 10.3%, while our micro enterprises registered a share of 4.9%. Among the small enterprises, makikita natin, wholesale and retail trade and repair contributed the most with a share of 4.0%, followed by manufacturing with a share of 3.82%, while financial intermediation is next with a share of 3.35%. Para sa mga medium enterprises, excuse me, ang manufacturing accounted for the biggest share, which is equivalent to 2.77%, followed by yung mga na-engage naman sa utilities, so electricity, gas, and water. So ang share naman niya ay 1.92%, and then ang financial intermediation generated a share of 1.87%. Ang micro enterprises, ang wholesale and retail trade and repair represented the largest contribution, which is 1.73%. Okay. Next slide, please. So, ito lang, sinasummarize lang natin muli, Philippine MSMEs at Taglan. So, pagdating sa economic indicators, ito din yung sinabi natin kanina, 99.51% of the total business establishments in the country are MSMEs, where ang employment share nila is 62.66% at nagko-contribute sa value of 35.7%. At ito ulit, nire-reiterate natin, inuulit lang natin, in terms of sectoral distribution, malaki po talaga ang share ng mga businesses engaged in wholesale and retail trade, followed by accommodations and food services, and next is our manufacturing. Okay. So, ano ba ang role and importance ng ating mga MSMEs bukod doon sa mga statistics na ating pinakita kanina? They play a very important role sa ating development ng ating bansa. Paano? First, yung rural development, excuse me, rural development and decentralization of industries. So, hindi lahat nandito sa Metro Manila. Mahirap pagka lahat nandito tayo. Okay? Next, generation of employment opportunities and more equitable income distribution. No, tapos, pati paggamit ng ating mga indigenous resources, lalong-lalo na for businesses that are engaged in manufacturing. In fact, kahit yung food services or accommodation, we can make use of the indigenous resources sa kanilang business. And then they create backward and forward linkages with existing industries, including syempre mga large enterprises. So pag forward, ako yung magbebenta dyan. Ako ang magsusupply. Halimbawa kay company A, ako naman yung small business. So ang forward, ako yung magsusupply kay company A. Pero probably si small business 2, siya siguro yung nagsusupply naman sa akin ng mga kailangan ko para makapag-deliver ako sa requirements ni company A. So maraming salamat sa ating lahat. I hope may natutunan po tayo for this afternoon's session. And good luck on your choice ng mga kung saan kayo mag-a-apply.
Wow, thank you very much, Director Emma, for that very insightful presentation. Ang dami for sure namin na pick up regarding the topics of what is an MSME, why would it be a great idea to shift your career towards these MSMEs, no? And what are the benefits in working in these industries, as well as how and why MSMEs are the engine of growth for the Philippine industry. No? We do have some questions, ma'am, from our audience that hopefully you can help us address. No? Here's a two-part question, but I believe the first part has been answered earlier. What are the more common MSMEs do you see in the ecosystem natin right now? And do you see, as we move further away from the pandemic, any trends in the specific segments or industries? Are we shifting more into the green, more into the tech? Ano po kaya, Ma'am Emma?
Okay, thank you for that question, Rafa. So kanina nga pinakita natin that a big chunk of our businesses are really engaged sa wholesale and retail trade. So sila pa rin talaga yung nasa ecosystem natin. And then with the pandemic kasi, ang maganda dito, nag-pivot ang ating mga MSMEs. So yung mga brick and mortar shops, they engaged their business, they pivoted to transforming their businesses into the digital maging online na sila. Kasi, di ba, ang daming restrictions nung pandemya. Hindi ka makalabas. May mga ganong rules, di ba? O paano mo naman maibebenta yung mga paninda mo? So people have resorted to going to the digital space, no? Which in a way offered more opportunities for them. Kasi now na nandun sila sa social media, nasa FB, kung saan-saan, mas maraming nakaka-access, nakakaalam, hey, I'm here and I have this thing na binibenta, I'm selling this, no? So, di ba? So, ganun yung interaction na natin doon. Hanggang pati payments, nagiging acceptable na din. Hindi lang cash on delivery or yung tinatawag natin COD. So, we made do of different modes of payment na, of online payment. So, nai-introduce na sa ating mga MSMEs yan. And yeah, so, meron nga kaming dating, during the height ng pandemya, we worked with our DTI e-commerce, had this control reboot plus na sessions to help MSMEs pivot to the digital world, to the digital space. Anong kailangan mo para maging ano? So pwede kang mag-ride on sa mga marketplace rather than doing your own particular website. Medyo mahirap yun. Madali na siguro ngayon maggawa ng sariling website, but sustaining it is a different thing. So the easier track is nag-ride on sila sa mga Shopee, Lazada, yung mga nandyan sa atin. Kasi pati payment, logistics, offered na nila eh. So medyo hindi masyadong masakit sa ulo ang tawag dito. Pag-iintindi para ma-fulfill yung mga services or requirements ng ating mga mamimili or customers.
I'm quite sure marami sa ating mga audiences nakaranas na yung bumili sa Lazada, yung mga Shopee. So for sure, yun po talaga. In line with your with the questions a while ago, no? As you may know, since medyo napapalayo na tayo sa pandemic, recently some large companies and maybe some government agencies have been pushing for face-to-face work na for their workforce and what have you. For the DTI naman po, what is the position po kaya ni DTI in regard to this one? Are we promoting, since mas digital na tayo, we should have learned from the pandemic, digital is viable, or parang we need to push pa rin for face-to-face kasi in the action of going to work, it also helps the economy. So ano po yung stance po natin on this one?
Always, there's a balance that we need to look into. Diba? Yan lagi ang pronouncement ng IATF natin. We need to balance health as against economic reasons. Diba? So, I think, nakita naman natin, ngayon, tayo ay isa sa mga pinakamababa ng country in terms of mga incidents ng COVID. Diba? Sa Nikkei na study, tayo ngayon ay one of the lowest, or I think the lowest. We have the lowest COVID incidents, yung rate natin. As compared to other big countries, lalo na yung sa Europe, nagtataasan ang COVID incidents sa kanila. No? So sa atin, well, mabuti sumusunod ang mga kababayan natin kasi wearing of face masks is a good practice pa rin kahit na alert level 1 na tayo. Okay? And yun. So, binabalance lang ng government pa rin lagi ang ating we don't want to be open agad na although ngayon di ba alert level 1 ngayon nga 100% operational ng lahat, but you still have to observe the minimum health protocols. Correct. Medyo bawas na siguro yun sa social distancing kung 100% operational na ang mga negosyo, but the minimum na siguro is yung wearing of face mask and then of course frequent washing of hands or having your sanitizer with you.
That is correct. Okay, and we have a final question that we will be entertaining from our audience. No? And this one may seem a bit hard-hitting. As you may know, there are large companies out there that do buy off these MSMEs, right? And of course, being an employee of these smaller companies that get absorbed by these larger companies, is there a protection in terms of their position and tenure in these smaller companies, especially if these larger companies are more into the practice of buying and breaking of these smaller companies? Meron po ba tayong protection from these?
Can you repeat the question again? Medyo choppy. Sorry.
Oh, I do apologize. No? As you may know, some large companies are into buying of these small MSME companies and absorbing them into the fold, only to later break them into smaller components and to sell them off. No? Yung buy and break, ika nga. Some of the workers of these MSMEs are a bit worried of their job position. Is there anything that the DTI can do in regard to making sure that their tenure or their job is secure? Because we really want to push these employees to stay and of course grow the company itself.
Yeah, thank you for that question. But I think that would be more in line with our counterpart from the Department of Labor and Employment.
Correct.
So, yun ang natin. Kasi dito naman sa DTI, ang naman natin priority is enabling more yung a business climate that could, where businesses could flourish, di ba? But pagdating dyan sa mga ganyang mga alituntunin, maybe our counterpart from Dole would be in a better position to
Correct.
answer that question.
Correct. Totally in line with that one, ma'am. So, all right, there you have it. Thank you, Director Emma, on this one. We would like to encourage all of our candidates who are listening right now to apply to the dozens of MSMEs that we have in this career fair, and not just in our career fair, but also on our platform in JobStreet. We have a partnership with the DTI, and we are promoting, especially with this virtual career fair, the dozens and dozens of MSMEs that we have in our fold. With that, again, on behalf of JobStreet, we would like to thank you, Director Emma, and the rest of the DTI for participating in our webinar and providing really insightful information for our candidates. All right.
Thank you, Rafa, and good luck on your JobStreet activity. And we hope more of our mga kababayan will find the right job para sa kanila, fit for them. Okay. Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.